This is Father Christopher Leith, and I'm back again to talk to you once more about the virtues. So, this is the second segment of 3 segments on virtues. So, we're talking about the title will be, what's so good about virtues? In other words, why should I like them? Why should I like virtues? Why should I want to be virtuous? So, good point. Yeah. There's in the Psalms we read something about I was zealous about my wicked neighbor because he had things so good. He was enjoying life, etc. Yeah, we might wonder sometimes, why should I want to be good? And so I give you the reasons. These are the reasons. Why should we want to be virtuous? Why should we want to foster in our own behavior virtuous acts? The first reason is, as I said in the last segment, happiness. We are not happy if we're not virtuous. And to make that a little more understandable, I'd like to remind you that there is a difference between pleasure and happiness. Pleasure is something that's pleasing in one way or another. But not all pleasure leads to happiness. And happiness has its own kind of pleasure, but not every pleasure leads to happiness. Some pleasures lead us away from happiness. And we have to realize that just because something pleases us in this way or that way does not mean it's the right choice, doesn't necessarily lead us to happiness. So we look for happiness, especially where a human being is apt for happiness. How is it that a human creature, is happy? You remember the happiness is sayings. Happiness is this or that. Well, real happiness is something which is common to all human creatures. And that is the happiness of fulfillment, complete fulfillment. So fulfillment means that the person has his capacities completely full, that every capacity for good is filled. Now, there are lots of wrong approaches to fulfilling ourselves, and they do indeed start to fill us. But then they leave us unsatisfied. They don't fill us completely. And in the final analysis, they leave us empty of all fulfillment. Whatever was filling us before seems to fade, disappear, and is no longer something that we enjoy. And we may have enjoyed it at first with certain pleasure, and yet when it's gone, it doesn't come back. And it's over. So, the human soul, as you know from, we should all know this, that the human soul is forever. Not eternal in the sense that it was created at a point in time. We didn't exist from forever like God did. God never began to exist. We did begin. And but our souls will never cease to exist. We will always be. When we die, we know that the soul and the body are separated from one another. And that's the end of our life on earth. But the soul continues to exist, even though the body is decaying and it's gone and it falls apart. So the soul, however, stays, and it's because the human soul is not like an animal soul, because insofar as it is spiritual, created in the image and likeness of God. So we have powers that the animals don't have. We have intelligence. The animals don't have intelligence. They cannot abstract a universal idea out of particular things. They cannot judge and they cannot reason. But a human being can, because he has a spiritual soul and he has these faculties, which are the faculties of intellect and will, are the faculties that animals don't have, and we share them in common with the angels and with God. And so that's why that this Holy Scriptures remind us that we are created in the image and likeness of God. He created Adam and Eve in the image and likeness of God. And that's also the words of our current president, President Trump, was saying about each child is the holy image of God. Well, he's getting close to pointing out a Catholic teaching there. So that's very good. We like that. The more the better. So what about the human soul? The human soul can only be fulfilled by infinite good, unlimited good, and that's God himself. And our union with God through grace requires that we receive sanctifying grace, which is a gift. And having that sanctifying grace in our souls elevates us to a level way above creatures that are just creatures. We were just creatures without sanctifying grace, although in the image and likeness of God, and capable of grace without grace. And when we're baptized, we receive grace for the first time. We are raised up to a higher level of existence, which means we're adopted children of God. We participate in the nature of the Most Holy Trinity. And for that reason, we are there. Now we're not just mere creatures anymore. And that union is there even with sanctifying grace. We're united with God in that way, participating in his nature. But this nature needs also to imitate God in its way of being. And the way of being means we not only partake in God's nature, but we partake in his goodness, both in being and in action. The action then, what we have to do, what we do with ourselves, with our free choices that we make during life, with our intelligence, those actions, we want them to be like God. We want them to be divine. Whether we're saying something or doing something, we want the words we say and the things we do to be like our Creator. And that is how the virtues help us. We increase our virtues by, first of all, by deliberately practicing them, by thinking, I'm going to be honest, or I'm going to be patient, I'm going to be thoughtful to my neighbor, which is a charity towards our neighbor, to think of what's going on with the neighbor and take that as a basis for how we're going to deal with them. So this happiness requires not only being a participant in God's nature by sanctifying grace, but also by behaving like a child of God. And this way we live up to our title. As a baptized Catholic, we have a title. The title is Child of God, Sons of God. We say that at Easter time, we sing like, you sons and daughters, O filiae, so children of God. And we have that title, but it's by the virtues that we live up to the title. Living up to it is extremely important, and it's required of us, and that is where the virtues come in. So, I will give you, for the last minute or so, one point, which is the beginning of all other virtue, and that is humility. Humility, even though it's not the highest of all virtues, it is the most necessary. And it starts with being completely honest about the whole story. To know what we know and what we don't know. I know this, I don't know that. Not to pretend that we know things that we don't know. Nor to pretend that we don't know things that we do know. And never to pretend that we know it all. That's the key for all of us. We don't need to be know-it-alls. So, end of segment 2 on virtues, and I'll come back again with a little something for you next time on how to foster virtues in our own behavior.